Has the cleanup begun of poor sportsmanship in college football, of baseball's steroid reputation, of Travis Ford's language? From the Dodge Sports Desk, I'm Mike Sherman, and this is the Press Row Live. My guests, as always, are columnist Barry Trammell, columnist Jenny Carlson, columnist John Rohde. Folks, the big news out of Stillwater lately has been a four-letter word, Ford. But next month marks the 4-year anniversary of Oklahoma State's last appearance in an NCAA tournament. And from the looks of things, we'll be marking the 5th anniversary in March 2010. So I ask you, Jenny, doesn't OSU have bigger problems than Travis Ford's potty mouth?
I definitely think they do. But it hasn't been comfortable for people in Stillwater, I don't think, to watch this episode play out. I think they were hopeful that Travis Ford would go in there and start to build for the future, and that, you know, they could sort of allow him that room to grow. And instead, there's been this whole local and I think somewhat national storm over what he said. But obviously, I think talk about NCAA tournaments this year, it's out the door now. I just can't see him making it. And it's hard to believe it has been 5 years since these guys have played in the tournament, a program that had a consistent string that was one of the best in the country. It is pretty hard to believe that it was so long ago that we were watching Arizona beat them on a last-second shot and thinking, well, they'll be back. Haven't been back since.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. If you live by the three, you die by the three. And if you don't defend, that's a recipe for disaster. And that's what OSU is. Unless they get hot, literally get hot again, they have no chance of NCAA, maybe not even NIT, Barry.
I'm not sure they do have a bigger problem than Travis Ford's language, because I think what he called Obi will have repercussions down the road. It got him in hot water with his bosses. It got him in hot water with the OSU fan base. I think it's going to hurt him with players also, though. You know, we talked a lot, or other people talked a lot too, about the Mike Gundy rant and how Gundy sort of rallied people around him and, hey, I'd like to go play for that guy. Nobody's sitting at home watching that or reading about what Travis Ford said is saying, ooh, I'd like to go play for that guy. The opposite is true. It will alienate some. It will hurt him on the recruiting trail. It's not something he can't overcome. But to me, this has really put his first year at Oklahoma State. It's a major step back.
But if you send that memo to Travis Ford, send it to your entire staff. And while you're at it, you know, not to throw Bill Fennelly under the bus, Iowa State last night, Courtney Paris outran a defender down the court. Bill Fennelly called timeout, got in that girl's face and said, that's woohoo, you know?
But I mean,
and they all do it.
They all do it,
Yeah.
but the manner in which he did, calling Obi a particular name, I think that's pretty rare. I think that's pretty rare that, I mean, coaches cuss and been cussing for two centuries. But to call somebody a name using a profanity, I think is pretty rare.
I mean, I think there are a lot of people that would say coaches curse all. I mean, Coach K, the stories about him, one of the best coaches in college basketball, about his mouth, pretty legendary. So I don't think people are shocked by the cursing. I think that has now been added to the sort of bricks in the wall that Travis Ford is sort of building for himself in a strange way. But yeah, to have that said to a player, I've heard some people say, coaches say that to athletes all the time. I'm thinking, I've been around athletics a long time and sat by, you know, coaches in the throes of competition. I've never heard a coach say that to anybody. Maybe I've missed it, but I don't hear coaches directing that kind of language specifically at a player. I just don't hear that a lot.
We've heard a lot of conversation, you know, in huddles where, you know, they described poor play, poor rebounding.
Sure.
You know, all kinds of things. I agree with Barry. I don't ever remember seeing somebody called that. And the other thing, I wonder how much the timing makes it sound strange. You know, basically in the NBA, that's the time of the game where you go to the corner and you dribble out the clock. Under a minute left, double-digit lead for Kansas. Let's keep pressing. Well, really? At that point, you're gonna tell this guy he's a blanking idiot because he's not playing fanatically and the game is already decided? And then they go down to Texas. Of course, Ford behaves himself down there.
Maybe he was depressed. Did you see the game?
As Barry likes
to say.
Well, as Barry likes to say from time to time, you got to pick your ditch you want to die in. I think Oklahoma State's NCAA tournaments died in a ditch in Austin.
Yeah.
Barry, you had some stats though about OSU and what's happened since the last time they made an NCAA tournament that I found pretty startling from reading your blog.
Well, 122 different schools have played in the NCAA tournament since OSU did, including 51 of the 73 schools in the power conferences. So this was, and in some ways still is, an elite program in NCAA basketball. But the Cowboys have fallen far and fallen fast and appear to still be falling. When that many schools have made an appearance since you have, out of sight, out of mind, Oklahoma State needs to reverse this trend.
Okay, guys, let's move on to the NCAA Rules Committee that's taken aim at excessive celebrations in college football. I hear this, I think Mark Richt, Georgia, Florida, and Rick sending his Georgia Bulldogs into the end zone to celebrate a first quarter touchdown. One of the proposals turned these kind of penalties into live ball penalties, which would then erase the touchdown. John, doesn't college football have bigger problems than excessive celebrations, chest bumps, and the like?
It is a problem. They do have bigger problems. That's one of the problems. I say you're starting at the wrong level. Start at the NFL if they're supposed to be impressionable kids. The NFL's bad. You know, at the end of Super Bowl, when Santonio Holmes caught the ball and gave him first and goal at the 6 or whatever, they were running downfield. The Steelers were, and Roethlisberger's wanting to spike the ball, and then all of a sudden he calls timeout. You know why you think he called timeout? Santonio Holmes was in the end zone celebrating that he caught a ball at the 6-yard line, and there was like less than a minute left in the game, 40 seconds. It's a problem in the NFL. I say start there. Don't start at the NCAA
And
level.
his celebration after he caught, which is what is one of the most memorable touchdowns, most clutch touchdowns in the history of the game, he did the LeBron James talcum powder celebration. We love that. Barry, is college football, rearranging things that don't need to be rearranged?
Well, I don't have any problem with the rules as they are. I don't even have a problem with tightening up the rules. My problem is the lack of centralization in college football. One conference calls it one way, one conference calls it another.
And they admit it.
Yeah, that's right.
calls it differently than
that's
the SEC.
Right. And it's not, in the NFL, at least the NFL, everything's by the book. There is no book in college football because, they have a rule book, but nobody seems to interpret it the same. To me, I'd just like to see them get all of college football maybe under the same umbrella of officiating.
You know what? The thing that I think about is, it's not like you think back about this last college football season and go, wow, there was a real big problem with taunting. Like you can come up with all sorts of anecdotes from the NFL season from probably just the playoffs.
And we
say,
did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And come up and say, okay, they need to regulate that better. I can sit here and think, with the exception of that Jake Locker touchdown celebration that everybody went, that was excessive celebration. It wasn't like we saw a bunch of taunting this year. I'm just wondering what exactly happened to have the Rules Committee even think about this, because it's not like this is a rampant problem in college football. I just don't see what it accomplishes.
Is it Oregon's Mike Bellotti that brought this up?
That's right.
Well, maybe I think a bigger problem in college football is finding out who recovered an onside kick. Maybe they could work on that 2 years, 3 years down the road.
Well, and I think too, you've got trouble finding officials anymore in football at all levels. It starts at the high school, junior high level, and moving on up. And this would just be another thing that would be a judgment call. You're asking more officials to make more judgment calls, which brings more scrutiny on them. I think that hits at another issue altogether. You've got to make it not easier on the officials, but if you're wanting to get better officials to come up with better calls like who recovers an onside kick, don't go adding more layers of judgment calls like that.
College football needs fewer rules, not more. There's no doubt. But at the heart of this rule, is pretty good, which is if a guy taunts an opponent before he crosses the end zone, the play's live, it's a live ball, the foul is committed there, it goes back to the 18-yard line or wherever. I don't have a problem with that rule, but it does give the striped shirts one more thing to worry about.
Sportsmanship is an issue everywhere. What is the biggest breach of sportsmanship that you folks see on Saturdays in college football season?
I don't see a ton.
I see a lot of running up the score. In other words, I guess what I'm saying is I think most of the time players are as well behaved as the coaches, but You can't really legislate against that.
Well, you can legislate. College basketball coaches and all basketball coaches, there's something called technical fouls. I see these college football coaches chewing on officials' ears on the sidelines.
They don't throw that flag very often.
They don't throw the flag very often. Very, very interesting about that. On to baseball, and just when you thought it couldn't get any worse for the great sport of baseball, along comes Alex Rodriguez to prove you wrong. These revelations, Barry, that Rodriguez has added to his MVP and home run totals with performance-enhancing drugs, what will it do to the sport in the long run?
I don't think it's going to do much. I think most baseball, the people who only moderately care, not even paying attention anymore. People who still care to some degree, I think are a little bit. I think they're a little bit calloused. Really, you can't do much to us anymore. What can you? I mean, how can you make me care less about baseball records than I already do? They've already ruined it. I don't know that. I don't know that A-Rod has the same. I don't think he's going to have the same impact as, say, the Roger Clemens hearings. I just think we've become immune, and it's mildly interesting. Watch him talk to Peter Gammons, but as far as long-term effects on the game, maybe the best thing is that he did have some sort of mea culpa. He did come clean a little bit. That's a little bit refreshing after what we've seen with Sosa and Bonds and McGuire and Clemens. So, maybe that's maybe it's a good thing. Maybe we're seeing a turn where guys are actually got a new PR strategy.
It seems like a simple process, Jenny. You cheat, you get caught, you apologize.
Yeah.
The other guys before him, they cheated, they got caught. I didn't do it.
Exactly.
And it seems like a simple process. I think they've already turned the page on A-Rod, and they'll talk about it at the beginning of spring training, and then he'll do his best to, as he put it, become one of the greatest baseball players of all time under immense pressure. Hopefully he'll pull it off.
The one thing I wish he wouldn't have done when he made his mea culpa was that whole area of, well, I was under great pressure, times were different, it was loosey-goosey. That to me sounded like some excuses. Yeah. And I wish he would have said, I screwed up, I made a mistake, I don't do it anymore or whatever, but don't say, it was a different time and I was feeling this. Just apologize and move on, because I think that's what everybody's wanted all along from the Roger Clemenses and the Mark McGuires. You're looking at these guys going, we pretty much know. We know. So to have somebody say, hey, I was wrong, that's good. Just leave the rest of it out of there.
Where's baseball in the recovery from this, and what needs to happen to pull out of this ditch?
Well, I don't know. It's what needs to happen is I think what really could invigorate the fan base is for some heads to roll. And everybody wants Bud Seligs, but they always want Bud Selig, and that's fine. I'd like to see some union heads roll because, in my opinion, the most powerful organization in baseball, the most powerful people in baseball have been the union heads for the last 20 and maybe 30 years. And I think they have done their clients, the union, a grave disservice. They've given them untold riches, but it's come at a high price. So I would like to see Bud Selig's head roll, but I wouldn't mind Donald Fear and Gene Orr's head rolling right down the third baseline with him.
By the way, if Bud Selig penalizes A-Rod for this, like he's today talking about doing, I think that'd be the biggest mistake. Baseball turns its back on this problem. They knew they had it. They had to know they had it. And then to say, well, now we're going to retroactively punish this guy for something, I really think that would be an ugly mark to an already ugly situation. And maybe the thing that we hang our hats on is that Jose Canseco is like, he knew everything. Is it any wonder nobody ever sued him? It's because they knew that he was right the whole time.
It was interesting. Barry goes, well, I don't count the numbers anymore. They don't matter. They're all tainted. You know what they're doing now, Barry? They're comparing numbers in the steroids era. Like when A-Rod was on drugs, he only hit 47 and had 118 RBIs. Bonds hit 73. That shows how much better a player that Bonds is. So numbers will always matter. It's baseball.
Okay, guys, final shot. The Thunder unveils its mascot Tuesday night at the Ford Center. This much we know. It's a bison. Question for you. What should be its name and its signature stunt? Let's start with you, Jenny.
I'm going to go with Rumble. It's not.
And that's its signature stunt.
It could be. I'm thinking it needs to be. It needs to be a slam dunk of some kind. It needs
Well,
to be the
as long as they
signature
don't name it Chip, like Colorado named their buffalo, that just. I'll go with Thor, and its stunt should be sit down and shut up. You know, I don't really care about the mascot. I thought I did about 3 months ago. Now I don't care. I just want to watch the team.
Barry, are you going to go down Boomer Boulevard?
No. I just want to know this. Why are they so fixated on singular words? If you're going to have a mascot, why can't he be a buffalo? Why are you stuck on the word bison? So I think they should steal from Colorado. I'd name him Ralphie. Let's go with Ralphie. It's worked.
It's not Chip. That was my point.
Yeah, let's go with
Chip.
Ralphie. It's worked in the mountains for decades, and it's one of the coolest mascots in college sports.
But it's alive.
It is alive. Oh well, this guy better be alive. I mean, rigor mortis set in. So yeah, I sort of like it. I think it's a good, solid selection for a mascot because I mean that's the only way I know of to actually illustrate thunder is a buffalo herd.
Okay, the mascot will be unveiled Tuesday. That's all for us on the Press Row Live, but you can stay with the best coverage team anywhere, every day at newsok.com and every morning in the Oklahoman.